They hurt you. And instead of looking guilty, they looked lighter. They breathed easier. They almost looked at peace. And you're left sitting there, in pain, confused, asking yourself, how could they hurt me and feel better after it? It doesn't make sense. Not in the world of love you know. Not in the way you give. When you love, you feel alive in closeness. You feel comfort when someone draws near. You breathe easier in connection. But for them, it's different. For the avoidant, love doesn't settle the nervous system. Love agitates it. And so when they hurt you, when they create distance, when they push you away, their body interprets it as survival. It's not that they like your pain. It's that their body whispers, finally, you're safe again. To understand this, you have to step into their inner world, a world that was shaped long before you arrived. Imagine being a child who reached for closeness, but was met with absence. Imagine asking for comfort, but being told, directly or indirectly, that your feelings were too much. Imagine showing need and receiving silence. Imagine expressing hurt and being met with rejection. What happens? The child learns. The child adapts. The child rewires. They learn. Don't need too much. Don't reach too far. Don't lean on anyone, because leaning gets you dropped. They learn. If you want to feel safe, you must shrink yourself. You must hide your needs. You must create distance. That child grows, and now they're in your life. They look like an adult. They fall in love. They even want closeness, deeply, but their body remembers the old rule. Closeness equals danger. Love equals risk. Dependence equals disappointment. So when you give them your warmth, when you open your heart, when you reach for them with softness and devotion, they feel two things at once: desire and panic. They want it. They fear it. And their nervous system does not negotiate. It reacts. So what happens? They push. They withdraw. They use coldness like armor. Sometimes they even use cruelty. And then something strange happens. Their shoulders drop. Their breath slows. Their body relaxes, while your body aches. There's calms, while you feel abandoned. They feel free. This is the cruel irony of avoidant love. It's not about hating you. It's not about not caring. It's about their system, feeling like distance is oxygen. When they pull away, they are exhaling. When they hurt you, they are releasing the pressure of your closeness. Think of it like a pot of boiling water. Every moment of intimacy, the heat rises. The pressure builds. They want to stay in it. They want to be with you. But inside, they feel like they're about to boil over. So they lift the lid. They let steam escape. They say something sharp. They withdraw into silence. They disappear for hours, days, sometimes weeks. And in that release, their body feels balanced again. Their nervous system sighs with relief. But notice this: relief is not joy. Relief is not love. Relief is not connection. Relief is simply the absence of threat. And that's what makes their behavior so painful for you. Because you weren't trying to threaten them. You were trying to love them. Yet in their body, love registers as pressure. Closeness feels like captivity. And so hurting you becomes the way they rescue themselves. This is why you've seen it before. You open up. They shut down. You ask for closeness. They ask for space. You lean in. They lean out. And when they finally wound you, with silence, with distance, with words that cut, they look calmer, like the storm inside them, finally cleared. It's maddening, isn't it? Because your nervous system doesn't work that way. You feel calm when you're held. You feel safe when you're seen. You feel relief when connection is restored. For you, intimacy heals. For them, distance heals. Two nervous systems, two realities, colliding. But here's the hidden truth they don't tell you. That relief doesn't last. Yes, in the moment. Their body feels safe again. Yes, they can breathe. Yes, they feel like they've escaped. But once the dust settles, once the room grows quiet, once the texts go unanswered, once the tears they caused fall in silence, another feeling comes creeping in: guilt, emptiness, loneliness. Because even though their system calmed down, their heart still wanted you. Even though they pushed you away, a part of them still longed for you to stay. And this is the endless loop: relief in distance, regret in solitude. This is why the avoidant often returns. Not because they suddenly changed, not because they found clarity, but because once the relief wears off, the ache of missing you takes over. It's a pendulum, back and forth, closeness, then distance, relief, then regret. For you, it feels like chaos. For them, it feels like survival. But survival is not the same as love. And this is why their love feels like hurt. Let's sit with this for a moment. When you cried, when you reached, when you begged for closeness, and they looked calm, they weren't enjoying your pain. They were enjoying the silence of their alarms. They were feeling their nervous system slow down. They were experiencing a relief that was never about you, but about the ghosts of their past. Because in their childhood, hurt was easier to survive than need. Distance was safer than closeness. And so even now, as an adult with someone who loves them, their body clings to the old rules. And this is what makes avoidant love so heartbreaking to witness. Because you see their potential. You see their tenderness in rare moments. You see the love that flickers when they finally let the guard down. But every time love asks more of them, every time closeness feels too strong, they return to their oldest reflex: push away, shut down, hurt first, so they don't get hurt. And then, when you finally step back, they feel it, that breath of relief, that cruel sense of safety. But it's not freedom. It's a cage that looks like comfort. The truth is, the avoidant doesn't really feel alive when they hurt you. They feel less trapped. They feel less suffocated. They feel less endangered. And to them, that absence of fear feels like peace. But it's a fragile peace, a peace built on loss, a peace that costs them the very closeness they actually desire. Because underneath it all, the avoidant wants love too. They just don't know how to feel safe in it. And so every time they hurt you, they are not escaping you. They are escaping their past. They are escaping the child inside, who never learned that love could be safe. And that is why, when they hurt you, they feel relief. Not because you deserved it, not because they wanted to cause pain, but because in that moment, their nervous system told them, now you can breathe again. Even if, moments later, their heart whispers, now you are alone again. They hurt you, and for a moment, they felt better. But here's the truth no one tells you: relief always comes with a price. Because when the avoidant creates distance, yes, their alarms quiet down. Yes, their body feels safe again. But the very thing that soothes them is also the thing that leaves them empty. They cut you off to breathe. But in cutting you off, they starve themselves of the love they secretly crave. And this is the cycle that keeps both of you trapped. Imagine it like this: an avoidant feels closeness rising. The warmth is too much. The intimacy feels suffocating. So they back away. They say less. They disappear. They wound. And immediately, they feel lighter, like they just slipped out of chains. But then, hours later, the silence grows loud. The comfort they felt in isolation turns into a gnawing void. Because safety without love isn't really safety. It's survival. And survival feels cold. This is why they often live in contradiction. When they're with you, they feel trapped. When they're without you, they feel lost. And so they keep orbiting you, close enough to touch, but far enough to breathe. It's why you've heard them say things like, I need space. I don't want to lose you. I can't do this right now. I miss you. Contradiction is their language, because contradiction is their experience. But here's what hurts you the most. Every time they feel relief after hurting you, you feel punished for loving them. You feel like your affection was the crime, like your desire for closeness was the mistake. It twists the logic of love, because in your heart, you know love should heal. It should bring two people closer. It should build safety together. But with them, love feels like a threat. And so you begin to wonder, is it me? Am I too much? Am I the problem? And that's exactly the hidden cost. Not just for them, but for you. Their relief comes at the price of your doubt. Their calm comes at the price of your storm. But don't miss this. They don't actually want you to hurt. It's not conscious. It's not cruel intention. It's reflex. When they were young, their nervous system learned that love is overwhelming. And now, as an adult, that reflex still fires, even when love comes from someone who would never abandon them. So when they hurt you, they're not really pushing you away. They're pushing away the ghost of every unmet need. But you still feel it as rejection. You still feel it as betrayal. Because whether they mean it or not, the wound lands in the same place. And here's where the tragedy deepens. The avoidant often believes that hurting you is kindness, because in their mind, they're protecting you from themselves. They think, if I stay close, I'll fail you. I'll suffocate. I'll resent you. Better to step back. Better to create space. They frame distance as protection. They frame coldness as mercy. But to you, it feels like punishment. It feels like abandonment dressed as logic. And the cruelest part? They feel relief in the moment. But you carry the ache for days. This is why the relationship feels uneven. You give, they withdraw. You open, they close. You reach, they resist. And yet, they keep coming back. Why? Because the cost of their relief is that it never lasts. Distance soothes them today, but tomorrow, the emptiness grows too loud. They don't forget you. They don't erase you. They orbit back, because the very thing they ran from is the only thing that fills the silence. Think of it like breathing. To them, love feels like holding their breath underwater. The closeness builds pressure. They panic. They rush to the surface. When they hurt you, it's like gasping for air. Relief floods in. But soon after, they realize they can't live on air alone. They need water, too. They need connection. So they dive back in. Not because they've healed, but because human hearts can't survive in exile forever. And you're left in the middle, pulled in, pushed out, loved, then hurt. And every time, you wonder if this time will be different. If maybe their relief will finally last in closeness instead of distance. But until they confront the wiring inside them, the cycle repeats. Because relief after hurting you isn't really relief at all. It's a pause, a break, a temporary breath before the longing returns. Here's the truth. Their relief is real, but so is their emptiness. They feel safe when they hurt you. They feel hollow when they're alone. And both of those truths can live in the same person. That's why they confuse you. That's why they confuse themselves. Because the relief that calms them is also the relief that costs them, the very love they secretly want to keep. So the question isn't, why do they feel relief after hurting me? The question is, how long will relief sustain them before they remember what they lost? Because one day, the pain of distance will start to outweigh the safety of it. And in that moment, they will have to choose. Keep surviving through hurt or finally learn how to feel safe and love. The avoidant hurts you, and you see the pain instantly. It lands in your body. It shocks your heart. It makes your nervous system scream. But for them, the story feels different. Where you feel devastation, they feel a release. Where you ache for repair, they breathe easier. Where you long to reconnect, they experience calm. And this contrast is one of the most confusing and painful dynamics for anyone who loves an avoidant. Because the very moment that you feel most broken, they feel most free. But why? Why would someone feel relief after wounding the very person they claim to care about? Why does your heart shatter while theirs seems to soften, not toward you, but toward themselves? The answer lies deep in the wiring of avoidance. For the avoidant, connection is coded as danger. It is not safety. It is not nourishment. It is not home. Connection is pressure. Connection is exposure. Connection is loss of self. And the closer someone gets, the stronger that internal alarm sounds. So when you pursue, when you ask for more, when you bring the heat of intimacy, they don't experience it as love. They experience it as suffocation. And when suffocation builds, the nervous system only knows one thing: escape. But escape is messy. It doesn't happen in a clean, silent way. It often comes with sharpness, with cold words, with withdrawal, with rejection. And those actions, the very ones that sting you the most, are exactly what bring them relief. Because in hurting you, they break the unbearable tension. They cut the cord of closeness. That feels like it's strangling them. They reestablish space. They create breathing room. And suddenly, their body feels lighter. Their chest loosens. Their heart stops racing. It feels like relief. But here's the tragic twist. This relief isn't joy. It isn't happiness. It isn't even pride. It's the relief of survival. The same relief someone feels after running out of a burning building. Not because they wanted to leave, but because staying inside felt impossible. That's what the avoidant feels. When they push you away, they don't feel good. They feel safe. And for someone who has lived their whole life equating closeness with danger, safety is the most intoxicating drug. But what about the guilt? What about the shame? Surely they must feel it. And the truth is, they do. The avoidant often carries a deep undercurrent of guilt for how they treat the people they love. But here's the key: the guilt arrives later. In the moment of pushing away, the survival response is stronger. The brain registers relief first. The body sighs with release first. Only after space has been restored, only after the nervous system calms, does the guilt sneak back in. But by then, you're already bleeding. You're already wondering how someone who loved you could hurt you so deeply. To you, it feels deliberate, calculated, cruel. But to them, it feels necessary, automatic, unavoidable. They're not thinking, how can I punish you? They're thinking, how can I breathe? And in their world, hurting you becomes the price they pay for air. But this creates a devastating cycle, because the more relief they feel after hurting you, the more their nervous system learns that pushing people away works, that cutting you down restores their equilibrium, that rejection brings safety. And each time the cycle repeats, it reinforces the belief that closeness is the threat and distance is the cure. This is why avoidants often repeat the same patterns, with partner after partner, not because they don't care, not because they are heartless, but because their nervous system has built a survival map. And that map says, relief comes from escape. And escape, for them, always leaves someone else in pain. You might wonder, do they ever notice the contrast? Do they see your tears while they feel their calm? Do they register the imbalance of suffering? Sometimes they do. And when they do, the guilt can be crushing. But remember, avoidants are experts in numbing. So rather than face the guilt head on, they often retreat deeper. They convince themselves you're too needy. They rationalize that you're too emotional. They rewrite the story so that your pain feels like proof of why distance is necessary. And in doing so, they protect their fragile relief. But here's the paradox. Even though hurting you brings temporary relief, it also deepens their inner loneliness. Because relief is not connection. Relief is not intimacy. Relief is not love. It's only the absence of pressure. And the absence of pressure is not the same thing as presence. So while they feel lighter for a moment, they also drift further away from the very closeness their hidden self craves. And that secret longing, that buried hunger for intimacy, never truly goes away. This is why many avoidants circle back. They may push you away, feel relief, and then days or weeks later, miss you desperately because relief is fleeting. But love, even in hiding, keeps whispering. And so the cycle continues. Relief after hurting, guilt after space, longing after distance, reconnection after absence, only to repeat it all again. For you, this cycle feels unbearable because your nervous system craves repair. It wants warmth. It wants closeness. It wants safety in staying, not in fleeing. And every time they choose relief over repair, your sense of worth erodes. You start to wonder, am I the problem? Am I too much? Why do they feel peace? Only when I feel pain. But you are not the problem. Their relief does not mean you are unworthy of love. Their escape does not mean you drove them away. It means their nervous system has been trained to confuse intimacy with danger. It means their body believes that hurting you is the only path back to calm. And here's the haunting truth. The avoidant doesn't want this cycle either. They don't want to keep hurting you. They don't want to live in push-pull loops. They don't want to sabotage every chance at closeness. But until they learn to regulate differently, until they learn that safety can exist in staying, their body will always trick them into finding relief in distance. And that means, tragically, relief will keep arriving at your expense. So when you ask yourself, how can they feel better right after making me feel worse? The answer is simple, but heartbreaking. Because for them, hurting you doesn't feel like cruelty. It feels like survival. And survival always brings relief. Even when it breaks someone else's heart, the moment after the hurt is where two worlds split. In your world, the silence is unbearable. Your body trembles. Your thoughts race. You replay every word, every glance, every breath. You wonder if you asked for too much, if you leaned in too quickly, if you loved too loudly. You sit with the ache of rejection. You sit with the sting of being unseen. You sit with the heaviness of being treated as the problem when all you wanted was closeness. But in their world, something entirely different unfolds. The storm in their chest finally clears. The heat of pressure finally cools. The chaos of closeness finally quiets. They can breathe again. They can hear their own thoughts again. They can return to a space where their identity feels intact. And to them, that feels like relief. But notice, the relief they feel is not about joy. It's not about freedom in the fullest sense. It's not about living deeply. It's about avoiding drowning. Imagine someone gasping for air, thrashing in water that feels too deep. When they finally break the surface, they don't smile. They don't celebrate. They don't shout in triumph. They just gulp air. Because the absence of suffocation feels like life. That's what the avoidant experiences. after creating distance, not joy, just the end of panic. And yet, for them, this absence of panic feels so good that it masquerades as relief. It feels safer than your love. It feels calmer than your closeness. It feels easier than your vulnerability. Because it is not about connection. It is about control. When you lean in, they feel exposed. When they push away, they feel restored. This is why many avoidants seem to carry a strange peace. After conflict, they may even look lighter. They may even act more playful, more talkative, more themselves. Not because the conflict healed anything, but because pushing you away brought them back to their inner equilibrium. Their nervous system resets, not through repair, but through retreat. But here's the cruelty of it. The very moment you are left crumbling is the moment they feel strongest. The very moment you need comfort is the moment they feel done. The very moment you crave closeness is the moment they crave space. And this mismatch makes love with an avoidant feel like chasing a ghost, because when you run toward them, they vanish. And when they finally reappear, you're too exhausted to hold on. To understand why they feel relief, you must see the story underneath. For the avoidant, hurting you is not their goal, but they have lived a life where boundaries were broken, where closeness came with conditions, where love demanded the loss of self. So now, any demand for intimacy feels like the same trap, and pushing you away becomes their only defense. But defenses are expensive, because though they feel relief in the moment, they also plant seeds of isolation. Relief today becomes emptiness tomorrow. Calm today becomes longing tomorrow. Safety today becomes regret tomorrow. And so they live in a cycle of survival, never fully at peace, only temporarily unburdened. Meanwhile, you, the one who loves them, carry the cost. You feel the sting of words they don't mean. You feel the chill of distance they didn't want to create. You feel the burden of being treated like the enemy when you only wanted to be their home. And you wonder how love could feel so lopsided, how two people could live the same moment, but experience it as opposites. You in grief, them in relief. But don't mistake their relief for indifference. It isn't that they don't care. It isn't that they are untouched. It is that their nervous system equates your closeness with drowning, and escaping that drowning, even at your expense, feels like oxygen. Oxygen always feels good, even if it comes with guilt and consequence. This is why avoidants often return after hurting you, because relief cannot last forever. It soothes the body, but it does not feed the heart. And somewhere, deep down, beneath the layers of avoidance, they are starving. Starving for intimacy, starving for warmth, starving for the very closeness they keep rejecting. So after the relief fades, the hunger returns. And when it does, they reach again for you. The cycle repeats. Push away. Feel relief. Sit in guilt. Miss you. Return. But notice what never changes. The cost to you. Because each cycle erodes your safety. Each cycle chips away at your worth. Each cycle teaches you to expect pain where there should be peace. And that is why understanding their relief matters so much. Because once you see that their calm comes at your expense, you realize something vital. It was never about you being too much. It was never about you loving wrong. It was never about you not deserving closeness. It was about them only knowing relief in retreat. And until they learn another way, the cycle will not change. Here lies the tragedy of the avoidant. Their relief costs them the very intimacy they crave. Their calm is purchased with someone else's tears. Their safety is built on someone else's ache. And while they breathe easier, you bleed deeper. This is the hidden economy of avoidance. One finds peace, the other carries pain, and both, in the end, remain alone. There comes a moment where you realize something quietly heartbreaking. It's not that the avoidant doesn't feel. It's not that they don't care. It's that caring costs them safety. And in their nervous system, safety always wins. You can see it in their patterns, how they brighten the moment space is restored, how they soften only after they've withdrawn, how they find their voice again once yours has been silenced. It's not that your presence is heavy, it's that their system has been wired to read closeness as threat. Imagine this. You step toward them with open arms. To you, it's an invitation. To them, it feels like invasion. Your love says, "Let me in." Their body hears, "Lose yourself or be consumed." So they push back, not because they hate you, but because their own sense of survival demands it. This is why their relief can look so cruel. You see them smile while you crumble. You see them breathe easy while you're still gasping. You see them act normal while you're replaying every detail, wondering what you did wrong. And it cuts deeper because it looks like indifference, but it isn't indifference. It's the high of escape. The avoidant doesn't celebrate hurting you. They celebrate not drowning. The tragedy is that you weren't water, you were air, but their history taught them that closeness suffocates. So they mistake your love for the very thing they fear, and relief becomes the feeling they chase, even when it costs them you. But here's what's rarely spoken. Relief isn't peace. Relief isn't intimacy. Relief isn't home. It's just distance. That feels like safety until loneliness sets in. And it always sets in because no one outruns the need for connection. No one escapes the hunger to be known. No one can bury the ache for love forever. So the avoidant lives between two poles, craving intimacy, but fearing it, reaching for closeness, but retreating from it, hurting the one they need most, just to feel safe again. And in that cycle, relief becomes their drug, a quick fix, a temporary calm, a counterfeit peace, but never a lasting answer. And you, the one who loves them, pay the price. You question your worth. You silence your needs. You shrink yourself to fit inside their comfort zone. You carry the weight of love alone, and little by little, your heart learns a devastating lesson. That love means loss. That vulnerability means pain. That being yourself is too much. But let me say this clearly. It was never you being too much. It was them only knowing too little. Too little safety. Too little repair. Too little freedom to be both close and whole. Their relief is not proof that you were wrong. It is proof that they were unready. The truth is, real love is not relief. Real love is not the absence of pressure. Real love is presence without fear. It is being able to breathe while holding someone close. It is safety that expands, not safety that hides. It is calm in connection, not calm in retreat. For the avoidant, this is the path they must one day face. To learn that intimacy does not have to mean suffocation. That closeness does not have to erase them. That love does not have to be lost. But until they face it, their relief will always come at someone else's expense. And that someone else will always leave feeling small. So what do? You stop mistaking their calm for your failure. You stop shrinking yourself to protect their wounds. You stop believing that their relief means you were wrong. And instead, you start seeing clearly that relief without repair is not intimacy. That peace without presence is not love. That silence after conflict is not healing. It's just avoidance. And here's the hardest truth. Sometimes the bravest thing you can do is step away from being the one who carries all the weight. Sometimes the most loving act is refusing to accept crumbs as proof of care. Sometimes the most healing step is realizing their relief cannot be your responsibility, because love is not about who breathes easier. It's about breathing together. It's about finding safety in closeness, not in distance. It's about feeling alive in connection, not in retreat. And until the avoidant learns that, they will keep confusing survival for love, and you will keep hurting in the name of staying. But love, real love, isn't supposed to feel like relief. It's supposed to feel like home. The kind of home where you can be yourself without fear. The kind of home where you can lean in without punishment. The kind of home where closeness feels like freedom, not like drowning. So hear this clearly. Their relief was never proof that you loved too much. It was proof that they didn't know how to receive it. And you deserve someone who doesn't need to push you away to feel at peace. You deserve someone who feels most alive, not in retreat, but in your arms. You deserve love that doesn't hurt first and heal later. You deserve love that doesn't punish you just for wanting closeness. You deserve love that doesn't make you question if you're the problem, because you never were. And if this resonates with you, know this: you are not too much. Your needs are not a burden. Your love is not the enemy. It simply fell into hands that didn't know what to do with it. But one day, it will fall into hands that see it as treasure. And that day, relief will no longer be the story. Love will.